Historically Black colleges and universities create an environment for minority students to be empowered and surrounded by Black excellence. And despite their excellent track record, they have been subject to many misconceptions as well as racial backlash. But you don't get into one of the best schools in the country by being anything less than exceptional. So what are these stereotypes really about? Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Scene in STEAM. I am so glad to have Darbentz Olmand today. Darbentz, welcome to The Scene in STEAM.
Thank you for having me. It's my privilege. It's a pleasure kind of being on this set for the first time. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So Darbentz, first and foremost, congratulations on getting to med school.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Very proud of you. And also, Darbentz, you do a lot. You're a leader on campus. You're, working hard to get into med school.
Trying.
And you said before that growing up, the schools you've gone to have been, predominantly Black, or it's been mostly minorities. And then, like me, you decided to come to HBCU, to college where you're, surrounded by Black professionals, Black excellence. So how has being at an HBCU prepared you for, a career in STEM where you'll most likely be the minority or may often be the minority?
No, that's a great question. Again, thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. I think coming to Oakwood has really helped like you said, going into STEAM or STEM, you're going to be a minority because of the color of our skin and because of our race. But I think being at Oakwood or just any HBCU allows you the opportunity to be around people who look like you and you see them striving for excellence, right? So it kind of gives you that ability to realize that it's possible. So it's hard to become something that you don't see. So if you don't see people who look like you doing great things, you may not think that your goals are attainable. But when you see people who look like you are, striving and pushing each other, that kind of motivates you to go out and, go the extra mile because it's possible. I think another dimension of it is also kind of networking, right? So I think to get to these really big positions is not always about what you know, but who you know. So if we're really working together and being at HBCU, just knowing people that are going to defend you and also going to speak well about you doing those closed door interviews, I think that gets you in a great position because it allows God to continue to open doors that may not have been open because you know specific people and He's placed specific people in your life. So I think that's really awesome. I think another point of being at a HBCU, it kind of just reminds you that we're really standing on the shoulders of greatness. So just being at Oakwood, originally being a slave plantation, it kind of just allows you to know how far we've come as a society and how much more work we have to do, but how much more work is possible because it's been done in the past, and we just need to work to progress it further into the future.
That is a good point. I never really thought about that. But it's true that, being HBCU kind of gives you a feeling of, if they can do it, I can do it. Or if I can't accomplish anything, there's nothing that's stopping me, there's no roadblocks. Whereas sometimes I feel like PWIs, predominantly white institutions, you sometimes can get that inferiority complex. And some of the best minds in STEM have come from HBCUs, and really any field have come from HBCUs. However, there's a lot of stereotypes that surround it. People, stereotypes of students who go to HBCUs are not as intelligent or not as hardworking or not as motivated. But you're one of the most motivated students I know, and we're surrounded by some of the most intelligent. People in our majors are incredibly smart. So what kind of advice would you give to someone debating going to an HBCU versus a PWI?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I think it's really personal. At the end of the day, you have to look at what really works for you. I think the ultimate question you have to ask yourself is what you want to get out of the experience. So just thinking about stereotypically, this is not always the case, but traditionally PWIs are gonna have more resources or better access to different services because they have billionaires that are just funneling money back into the school. So that's awesome for them. So if you're a big priority for you is getting these big opportunities or having an institution that has access to these great resources, then maybe you think about going to PWI. And I feel like we shouldn't, judge people who choose to do that. If that's kind of where your heart is, and that's where you feel like God's leading you, and that's where you want to, that's where you think the best opportunities are, definitely do that. But I think if you want an experience that's, enriching to who you are as a person, I feel like HBCU gives you that really personal experience to not only understand yourself better, but understand the community at large. Just see how other people who look like you, how their experiences have shaped who they are as people, and how they can kind of pour into you and allow you to continue to move on like that. So I think within the HBCU, it kind of gives you that setting to kind of explore more about who you are. I feel like within the PWI, you're going to get these resources, you're going to get these different opportunities and all that great stuff, which is, we shouldn't, push that to the side or ignore it. But I feel like you said, that inferiority complex, that feeling of maybe I can't be myself because everyone else thinks I'm different, or if I do this, I'll stand out. Well, I think at HBCU, you want to stand out. You just want to be yourself, and everyone welcomes that. And I think that's something you shouldn't take for granted. So ultimately, you should think about what you want to get out the experience, but talk to people, pray about it, look at different websites, really research these schools. But I think that, personally, I would, if you have the opportunity to go to HBCU, I think go for it. Especially, Oakwood specifically, if you're looking for like a Seventh-day Adventist or spiritual institution, I think that's really something that doesn't get replaced. And I think the experience in general, just the weird, random things you're gonna do with friends and the social events are just gonna be phenomenal. So, take that into consideration as well.
Right. I definitely agree with you in that, HBCUs kind of give you life experiences that you wouldn't get elsewhere, or, you're surrounded by people that you wouldn't have altogether elsewhere. And I also feel like it comes with a certain the kind of pressure is not so much on you, because I feel like, in my experience, when you're the minority, you kind of get the pressure of, I have to carry the expectations of my whole race, or I have to speak for my entire race.
Yeah.
So it can definitely, I feel, just take off that kind of pressure. But I've also heard that people say that it's hard to get back into the real world when you go to an HBCU, because you're in a bubble, and we are in a bubble, because the world isn't, not all of the world is like this. And you kind of told me your first experience kind of not being in the majority, kind of first having that feeling as a minority and kind of being culture shocked. And I've had that feeling. I had that feeling, but opposite, coming here. But what are your thoughts on, it being hard to go back to being the minority?
Yeah, I think that is an adjustment. I think I'm still kind of internalizing it from my Oakwood experience. I think you really don't want to take it for granted. I think some days at Oakwood, I'm really enjoying it, but sometimes I do take it for granted, oh, this is just how things are right now. But I think both of us are going to graduate soon. So leaving these sacred grounds, I think we're going to quickly realize that the world is really different, and the world isn't as, I think within a college setting, and especially HBCU, everything's kind of predictable. You know what you got to do. You kind of know who you're with. You kind of just you all backing each other. Especially at Oak, I think everyone has each other's backs and everything. Right. But in the real world, it's really different. Everyone's kind of just trying to make it, trying to be great and do all these things, and you're not too much concerned about who you are as a person. How can you help them do what they want to do? So I think it is an adjustment, and we should kind of, to prepare for it. I don't know if there's anything specifically do, because it's just things are going to hit you that have never hit you before. But I think going to an HBCU has allowed me, at least, to just realize that whatever comes my way, I'm ready for it. And we don't, like you said earlier, being at an HBCU, you have this tight group of friends and family that are going to be with you throughout your rest of your life. So say I'm at this different institution and I'm a minority, I can call up someone else who graduated from Oakwood and they're at an institution where they may be the minority, and then we'll back each other up, we'll encourage each other, and we'll say, I'm going to make it here, I see you have this potential as well, let's continue to push each other. So I think, again, going back to networking and just, having that connection, even if we're thousands of miles apart, I think that's really good to kind of motivate us. And I think ultimately just knowing that we're all called by God for a specific purpose, and sometimes you may be that only person in the room. Like you said, don't put too much weight on yourself, but I think it'd be a really cool privilege to kind of just represent the Black excellence that I think exists that people may not know about, but hopefully my life and the words I say and the actions I do allow them to understand that, hey, these people, you don't want to mess with them. They have a lot of potential, have a lot of punch, and if they get hit down, they're going to stand up and they're going to keep moving forward. So I think even if you are the minority in that setting, don't shy away from it. I think embrace it, stand up for it, and just continue moving. Even if you are afraid, something I was listening to this morning, just kind of, do it afraid. Even if you are afraid, you're uncomfortable. I think that breeds growth, and that allows you to do things that you never would have imagined, just being in those uncomfortable situations. So I think all of us at Oakwood are more than capable. So I would encourage anyone watching, or those at Oakwood specifically, just keep pushing forward. I think God's going to open doors, and we're all going to do great things.
I agree. Do it afraid. That's something my mom says all the time.
Oh, really? No, I think that's
And
great.
she's like, Jayde, do it afraid. And you definitely are Black excellence. And you talked about how much, connections you make here, you may not make elsewhere, Do you think the connections that you have made here have contributed to, the way you see yourself and see what could be and the success that you could have even more than you do now?
For sure. I think the first thing that comes to mind is Dr. Elaine Vantipool. I think every time I even think about her, I'm like having a conversation with her, I'm just like, wow, the sky is really not even the limit. I can go to outer space. Like, there's so much we're capable of. I think talking to all the biology professors here at Oakwood have kind of just allowed me to see that you just, make the best of any opportunity. I think, for me specifically within medicine, I think being in clubs like MAPS, which Jayde is the vice president of, she does a great job, and other clubs on campus, I think being in those clubs have allowed me to interact with Black physicians who are doing great things. So that just, it's extra encouragement to continue to push forward and to continue to realize that, I can, like I said earlier, really reach these goals because I see people who look like me doing these great things. So I think being at HBCU specifically has allowed me to have those interactions with people who are just doing great things. And then I want to be what they were to me to someone else, right? So hopefully when I'm on the wards or wherever I am with the white coat, some little 5-year-old's looking at me is like, oh, I want to be like that guy. Maybe not specifically me, but just the idea of being a doctor. And it's possible because growing up, I didn't see a lot of doctors who looked like me. So I think, having that representation would be really helpful to someone who, seeing is believing, to see that goal is possible and then reaching towards it. I think, that would be an awesome thing that I could do to blaze a trail for someone else.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I remember the first time, my first Black doctor, I was like, oh my goodness.
They exist.
They exist, they're real. But in Darbentz ICU, being humble, president of MAPS, thank you so much for coming today. I cannot wait to see what you're going to do, the amazing position you're going to be. I know you're going to be great. You guys can follow Darbentz at ClutchBlazer on Instagram. Darbentz, once again, it was great having you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Jayde. This was great.